sound is off. I'm going to keep it this side.
So you guys, what's really great about what we do here is that, as a person who is a Virgo, and I am going to stay on this zodiac soapbox all 2024. We like to do things behind the scenes. You guys should just see some of the things that we do behind the scenes. I may share a little bit of it, but before I get you guys into this conversation and welcome you to Small Biz Bites, I'm going to play some theme music. Hold on. Oh, there it is. There we go. Good afternoon. Welcome to Small Biz Bites. I am Gwendolyn G.R. Houston Jack. We are streaming live to Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube. And as I always say, if you are on LinkedIn, YouTube, it's the allergy pills, people. I'm talking about it. If you're on YouTube, you should like, share, and subscribe. And as I was saying before, the stuff that goes down behind the scenes. I don't know. Do I sound nasal, Aicila? Do I sound nasal? I feel like I sound nasal.
No, I mean, a little, but I don't think it's obvious if people aren't used to talking to you.
Oh, you got a point. She said they wouldn't know if you don't tell them.
I mean, your mom's probably going to know.
Mother's probably going to know. Yeah. I know. We are feeling all of the... Today, we're feeling it all today, and it's okay though, because we're still going to have an amazing show. I will tell you that. I have on me my beautiful Virgo mug, right?
Nice.
Virgo. On the back, it says kind, diligent, and loyal. I have a mug collection, Aicila. Did you know that?
No, I did not, and that just makes me like you more. I have a teacup collection, so it's compatible. Yeah,
that is compatible. Okay. See, we keep
the warm, delicious beverages.
Before we get started, let's invite our guests. We have Mikey here. Hello, is that Mikey? Is it Famine? I almost said that right. Okay, hello to you. It says, oh, hey, thank you. I have subbed and have liked the video. Let's do this. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you. Gary Jackson Jr. is in the building. Hello, sir. How are you? How are you? And Mother's here. Hello, Mother. I'm going to say it really quick. Mother's allowed to call me Gwen because she gave birth to me. All right? Mm-hmm. It's about as good as it gets. The rest of you, unless you're my husband, probably aren't going to get that ability, but we can work it out. You could become family. And once you're family, then you get to use it. Different topic, different time. What is this? Like, sounds like a Hufflepuff. A Hufflepuff. I just feel a little something extra going on in here, but it's okay. It's gonna be just fine. Aicila says hello to Gary. We have Ron Foster in the building. Hello to you, sir. We also have Gary asking us, how are you doing today, Aicila? How are you doing? I'm
just really excited to be doing this with you. I've been looking forward to it.
Yes.
I said it on LinkedIn. I feel like G brings out the best in her guests. Like every time I've interacted with her or watched, I've been like, that's an interesting, so I'm excited to see the best of me because you're going to bring it out.
Oh,
no pressure.
Thank you so much. I'm trying not to cheese, but I'm cheesing. My cheeks are hurting. Spencer B is here. Hello, Spencer. Hello to you. Thank you for tuning in, sir. And because I've already sort of said who it is, but I haven't said who it is. But before we get into who we are going to speak to today on Small Biz Bites, here's what I want to know, because this is sometimes where I vibe. Aicila, what's your favorite cocktail or mocktail?
So, my go-to is a gin and tonic.
Oh.
I know it's not super exciting, but it's a steady joy.
Steady.
But I'm particular about my tonic. I like the Fever Tree
Oh,
like,
okay. I do.
And then a little bit of a lime.
Yes.
Yep.
They make the best mixers, in my opinion. Like all of what they offer is just perfect. I'm not a big gin drinker, though. Believe it or not.
I mean, not
Just
everybody
one
is.
thing that's not on my bar.
Medicinal,
Oh.
It's got a little bit of. I'm not going to try to sell it to anyone because it's. I get that it's not everyone's cup of mocktail, but it's delicious to me.
I have had like my cousins drink gin, and so I've had some really good ones when I'm with them. But I myself, I don't just keep that in the house. It's just I should probably add a bottle. So when you come to visit,
when I come to visit, exactly. We're gonna have to make that happen. And
we're gonna have to make that happen. Yes.
Like hanging out there, like dangling it. There's gin.
Like when you come to visit, I like to have people's drink of choice available so that they can feel at home in my home. So since I've used the name 5,000 times, who is Aicila and what is your superpower?
I love this question. And I was like, who am I really? And then it's kind of, but so I actually thought about this beforehand. And today I'm going to talk about being an entrepreneur, a podcaster, and a writer. And I have a coaching and consulting business that specializes in creating systems to facilitate success for thought leaders in a variety of industries. So that's, I think, and then my superpower is that creating those custom systems for people and helping them to lean into their unique gifts, and also helping to like use the resources we have in front of us, like actually see and use them. So I think those are the three pillars of this small Biz Bites moment that I want to focus on.
I appreciate the part about seeing the resources and actually using them. And I want to, we're going to come to these comments. I can't help but say it enough. Like one of the phrases I like to use in my own business is exhausting the free. There are so many free, reliable resources. That's not your neighbor, not your friend, not so-and-so, that I always try to understand. And that keyword really is try to understand why people don't use what's right in front of them. I.e. like our phone.
Right.
It's a computer in your hand with multiple search engines available. You know what, Gwendolyn, don't do it. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to go there right now. I'm gonna save that one. I'm gonna save it because I have a soapbox about resources and I'm gonna save it. We want to go to the comments. Mikey says G brings out the best in her guests. That's a t-shirt. That's a good one, Mikey. When we do it, because it's not an if. When we do it, I'm gonna give you half. Okay, maybe a quarter. Maybe a quarter. Just like that, I was like, wait a minute, I gotta renegotiate this merchandise deal. Hold on.
I mean, now it's on the internet, so it's forever.
I know it's on the internet because it's on the internet. She loves Merlot, but y'all didn't hear that from me. Oh,
so Malort.
Okay.
Let's be clear. Mike and I've talked about this, and Malort is a specialty drink in Chicago that is, by all accounts, disgusting. However, I saw a gentleman on TikTok who was going through a personal challenge to try and make different drinks with Malort. Mikey says he's tried it and gotten his sewer wings because many people feel like it tastes like that bad. However, you can, it's like a Campari. I learned this from another person that I know.
Okay.
And so you can mix it nicely, but people like to make it. I love that it exists, and I do love people's faces when they try it because it's hilarious. But I don't love Malort. Thank you, Mikey.
I don't love Malort. I'm now curious to try it because I'm always looking for something new that I've never had. I will definitely do it. And I also like how Mikey says, now I have a screenshot. Okay, all right. We'll see what happens. You know what? I'm good for my words. So I'm gonna stick with the half. I'm gonna go with the half. Okay, I'm gonna go with the half.
This is why I love Mikey so much.
So tell me this, because this is part of our topic. And we're about to get a little serious, people, a little serious. Let's talk about what is self-exploitation. And would you share examples of this behavior?
Mm-hmm. Well, and so a lot of folks that start a business, and I'm going to be caveating here, like this is obviously like folks that are more in our realm. They don't have, you know, someone who's handing them a pile of money. So they're doing this. They've seen a service or a product that is needed, and they've got the passion and the drive to step out and either the support or the fearlessness to take the risk, right? Because it's not a no effort endeavor to start a business. And some folks, like they'll leave like a corporate job or something like that, where they were maybe not being treated really well. Maybe their time was being compromised, or they weren't necessarily being compensated fairly. They didn't necessarily have time for their families or whatever. And they start this business out of that passion, but they continue those behaviors because that's what they're used to, or they think that's what they have to do. And that I call that self-exploitation, because you were in a situation where you were being, whether you saw it or not, taken advantage of. Because if you don't have the ability to be in your life, in yourself, I consider that to be a form of exploitation. And I think it's unsustainable. I think we can hold off, but I think it leads to mental health issues, you know, social and emotional issues. And so every time that we step into that, we are participating in that system in some way. And so for me, that's part of the whole point of Business is Unusual, is to say, I want to support people in seeing that they don't have to do that. Because I think it's habit a lot of times. It's like, oh, I'm used to that. And I'm not talking about you love what you're doing so much, you get up in the morning and you're like really committed to it. I'm talking about this idea of the grind. And so an example might be, I work with someone who, she really functions best in the afternoon and the evenings, but she has made herself get up and start work every day at 7 because that's what you do. And we were chatting and I was like, well, why do you do that? She goes, well, I want to be a professional. And I said, all right, but I know you work like 10, 11 hours a day. It's not like you're not working. Why do you have to get up at 7? She's like, well, but because that's how it works. I'm like, all right. And then she was like, well, maybe I don't have to do that. I'm like, maybe let's try that on. And so like recognizing that, we have these habits and these ideas like, oh, it's professional to be up at 8, right? Or it's professional to do X, Y, or Z. Well, what's actually, so like, I like to step back and say, okay, you have these habits because you worked in this world that is got this certain idea about things, business as usual. And that's understandable. But let's step into saying, all right, well, what are you here for? Like you're creating this new service or this product, and you have a passion. So you're already stepped outside of the system. Let's also talk about how you do your business. And figure out what actually works for you, right? Like as a person in your life. And because the other thing I see a lot is people beating themselves up. Oh, I'm too disorganized, or I'm not good at meetings, or I can't. And the thing is, it's like, well, some of those things you might need to get good at. Or you might need, I prefer to say, find a way to hire someone or offsource it, because I find that it often drains people to put themselves in that situation. However, let's start with actually what you're good at, because you're obviously doing something well. You're here, you figured something out. What your skills are, what your cadence is. Let's start there. And then if we have to add on something, let's find a way to incorporate it into how you are and what you're good at as seamlessly as possible. I want as little deviation from that alignment as possible. Because I recognize, like, I also have to do some things that aren't my natural way, but I really try to limit it as much as possible, because that does take me out of the places where I'm most effective and where I can do the most like interesting and creative work for the people that I'm engaging with.
Okay, I am going to say it. I feel extremely seen, extremely. And I'm going to go back to when I stepped away, and it was Spencer, my dear friend Spencer, who questioned my office hours. He's like, you're open till 10? And I was like, yeah, because I need to be here for everybody at all times when they're available. And that's what I do. And that's what I've done for 25 something years. He's like, okay. And then I thought, dude, why am I waiting for a phone call at 10 o'clock at night?
Right.
And why do I have to be here for every single person whenever they are available? Why am I doing that again? Because I don't have to do that. I don't have, but you've done it for so long and you were given a reason as to why you do it. And it took me a little bit to unlearn that behavior of not being ready and available for every single person whenever they walked in. And yeah, a lot. And I do agree too. I was also doing that 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning gig, realizing that my customers don't call me till 10.
Right.
So wait a minute. Why does it say that you're open at 7 o'clock? It's like, no. Yeah.
Right. And
all
it's
of that
totally,
spoke to my heart.
Okay, I'm glad. And that's the thing is, I feel like also when you're creating something like that as an entrepreneur, you're creating a new way of approaching work or a new system or a service. You need that. I call it back brain time. Some people call it generative time. And Mikey. And it like you need that time to actually let yourself rest so you can create things.
Yeah. I like how Mikey says she's stepping on my toes, preach. And also, why are we following the same rules of the company that we walked away from? See, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, when I tell you it was so ingrained, it just felt natural that here I am now doing my own business. And I had this idea that I should be open at XYZ time and close at this time because, and then I thought, wait, what? But we've done it for so long. It's just the life we lived.
And I feel like that there's someone, and I can't recall who it was, that she makes the distinction between what she calls work and toil. And I really like that. And toil is those things that we do because we're committed to this idea of how things are supposed to be, the shoulds, right? And work is the stuff that we do. That's the reason we stepped into this business. And sometimes that includes things we don't love. Like I personally love spreadsheets, but not everybody does. But that doesn't necessarily have to be toil. When I think about toil, I think about things like that, like making yourself be up at a certain time. The other thing I run into a lot is people are like, oh, you have to do social media. I'm like, there are ways and places that it can be helpful. And I really like to push back on that and say, well, let's stop and say, once again, what do you need for your business? How do we communicate who you are and what you do? And what's the best way to connect with people around that? And then if social media is part of that, which it can often be in today's system, then how do we create it in a way that is not creating that for you? Because the minute that you get that look on your face, I know you are losing a ton of your innovation. You're losing a ton of your motivation. That's going to possibly stop you from getting 8 other really important things done today. So that look, I don't want to see it. So I want to figure out how we create something that avoids that for you 90% of the time. Like maybe you get that look when you're doing your taxes. We got to deal with that. Sorry. But I really want it to be that level of impact. Like if you don't do it, they're going to seize your life before we get that look on your face, because I just don't think it's necessary.
Erica, hey, shout out to Erica who is joining us. She says, my mom still changes her voice to a nasal sound because that's what she thinks is a professional voice.
Yeah.
We could do a whole thing on just how people define professional, but we have a different topic for today because I want to make sure we stay there. And before we go to our next question, Mike says the practices were previously rewarded, but now they are counterproductive. Our Pavlov's dog bell is ringing. Man, woo! We'll say it. And it's something that I just adopted because it was more for myself, but there is a process to unlearning what you have learned. It is a job to just say, okay, no, wait, I can do this differently. I don't have to do it this way. Why am I doing this again? Why even add it into what I'm doing? Like, it's just, there's a lot that goes on there, a great deal. So tell me this, continue with this conversation. Do you believe it's easy to unknowingly take advantage of ourselves and others?
Yeah, actually, I really do. I think that my personal experience is that when we believe these things are how it has to be, that and we've accepted that in ourselves, we don't necessarily notice that we're externalizing that onto other people. And I'm obviously caveat, there are people for whom that's not the case. I'm specifically talking about folks that are invested. They clearly have a community value. And then you're like, but they're doing this thing that's really unkind to themselves. And it's because I think it's the habits. I think it's the messaging that we get. We get a lot of shoulds. Business is supposed to be this way or that way. But let's be clear. Business as usual is what has led to a lot of the current catastrophes, economically, climate-wise, that we're dealing with. We know things have to change. We know that we have to learn how to work together in community. We know that we have to learn how to understand our impact on others and the environment, and that businesses can't just be about extractive profit. That is a dead end for everyone. And that's why a lot of people are moving to entrepreneurship. They really want to build something different, but because we've got these ideas about business, they're following an unconscious script. And so once they do that, and it's also, those are the systems that are easily presented to us. Like, oh, you need to get VC capital and do this. And I did a training last year on post-growth entrepreneurship, which is an international group of people that are working on creating sustainable businesses that center people and the planet as well as profit. Which is to say, like, let's talk. There's so many people in the world that are really committed to making a difference. They want the world to be different. They want us to actually be able to do our lives. It's what most people want to do. There's this whole narrative about folks don't want to work. No, folks do want to work. They just don't want to be exploited. And they've come to understand that's what's happening. So they're less interested in it. They're like, if I'm going to be miserable, I might as well be miserable and not be exploited by other people. Like, and that's a reasonable response to the situation.
Oh, you know, I don't even know where to start in terms of unpacking all of that. I really don't know. I'll start with the last one, with people don't want to work. People, as you say, they do want to work. They want to work. They want to put out an amazing product, amazing service. They do want to get paid fairly for that work, right? So I agree with you on the, like, all of the current narratives that we have. And I think about Kim Walsh Phillips, who says you shouldn't go shouldn't on people, using should, which clearly shares your ideas and beliefs and puts them on somebody else. There's a lot of that's been going on for a number of us, depending on how old you are, for a very long time, about what you should do, what professionalism looks like all these narratives that, as you mentioned, there are more people who are seeking the life of an entrepreneur because that program just isn't fitting the way it used to. Like there's this place where you start wondering what else could be, because this can't be it. Like this cannot be the only option. The only thing that I'm allowed to do or can do to have a fulfilling life and still put food on the table and all those other kinds of things. But my God, Aicila, we have comments over here. Hold on. We got a couple of comments coming in. Let's make sure that we are going through them. Gary says, hey, great information, and also even better job of questioning conventional thoughts. And there are a lot of, I'm going to go back to it. I remember writing not too long ago that, I come from a place where in high school, there's this huge book of careers. And we were pretty much told to pick one of the careers out of that book, just kind of like flipped and be like, bam, I'm going to do that. And that's where you stayed, whether you were happy or not. You've already gotten to college for that, study. And you're thinking, do I change my major? Because if I change it, then that means people are going to look at me funny. And now I got to start over. And and I thought, well, I don't want to stay here and like go into debt and be unhappy. Like, who wants to choose that? Right? But there's all these conventional thoughts that we have been. And again, I do believe it does depend on what generation you're part of, because times are changing. Again, I say it a lot of times. My mother would often say, you're not going to get a job playing video games, mother.
No? And now you can.
Know if you know. I don't know if you know this, Miss Houston, but people are getting jobs playing video games now.
You hear that, Mom?
You hear that, Mother? Do you hear?
No. Well, and one of the things that I
different times.
Right. Well, and that's then to your point, Gary, like one of the things that I feel is important that I do with the people that I work with is try to stand between them and that messaging, that there's a right way to do things that someone out there is going to sell to you. Because I don't think that's true. I don't think there's a right way. I don't think someone else has that right way. And I definitely don't think you need to be sold on it. I don't think you need to be fixed. Like a lot of business consulting is about fixing. I don't think you need to be fixed. I think you need to be supported, leaning into your unique gifts. And then once you're aligned there and you feel really powerfully like that's where you are, then, okay, growth, getting out of your comfort zone, finding a tool or a tactic, I'm all for that. But as long as it's about trying to be something that's better or fixed, I'm not for it.
See, this is why you and I vibe the way we vibe.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say it again, people. When you it sounds so awful. Put yourself out there. When you open yourself to new relationships and opportunities, you will find the people who speak to your heart and your spirit. I'm just saying. Like, I'm just gonna go ahead and put it out there. I do want to share that. Mikey says people want to have hobbies and personal growth. Can't do that with 60 hours at 3 jobs.
No, it's unsustainable.
Very. Like that whole burning the candle at both ends, which was a narrative that was pushed on us, the hustle and grind. And then you're asking yourself, okay, but then for what? Because at what point do you get to enjoy the fruits of your labor?
Well, I do think that's a distinction. I feel like when I was in my 20s, you could do that and save and get a down payment for a house or get a down payment to start a business. Like you could work 100 hours a week for a couple of years and have something to show for it. And now I feel like people are doing that to buy bread and pay for rent. And that's really I feel like that's the biggest problem. People are like, I'm like, no, people would be willing to do this if they had some sense of being able to make progress. Like we're all willing to make sacrifices for the short term, but this isn't the short term. This is the rest of your life. And that is awful.
I shared a video yesterday and I had mentioned that you can have a 2-income household and still feel the need to get extra income in the household.
Yes.
And it's not because, people think, but you got 2 incomes. It's like, yeah, but you can still be behind the 8 ball. Even with that. I was on a passive income soapbox yesterday.
Well, there was a meme I saw recently that I thought really summed it up, which is that most of us are 3 bad months away from being homeless. And very few of us, if none of us, are 3 good months away from being a millionaire or a billionaire. And that to me really sums up what we're dealing with, which is that so few of us have a landing pad or any real ability to create one for ourselves. And we have gutted our social safety net. And so it's really, that's business as usual. And I think we're all done with it. We need to create something that's more community connected and safer.
We are past done. And a shout out to Mikey, who's like, if you haven't liked the video yet, why not? Thank you. Go ahead and make that commercial. Click that thumbs up. And he also says grind culture equals selling you more wicks for your 1 candle. Ooh, the jams.
That's another t-shirt.
My, that's another t-shirt. Oh my goodness. Okay. With business in mind now, how do we build a business that doesn't exploit ourselves and others? And that does include the planet. How do we do that?
Mm-hmm. So, I think there's many paths to that. I think the first one is that starting and recognizing that you are the one that's in control of your business. And working to identify and challenge what those unconscious assumptions are. And that's why I love, you and I are in the group Empowerment Ensemble. I've done a lot of education, working with people like G or me to kind of help you orient and align yourself. I think that's really important and get that clarity. And then, the post-growth entrepreneurship program, they have a startup incubator, and I believe that it's free. So they actually take you through understanding what your values are and how to how to build a business that actually incorporates you as part of it in terms of your own sustainability. And that's a big thing that I also really encourage people is like, you have to be sustainable as a person. So that's part of why I talk about not exploiting yourself, because I think when you get clear on what you need, you're much less likely to unconsciously pass on that exploitation to others. Excuse me, I'm about to. And so I think that's a big part of it, is that awareness that there are other ways to do things. And there's, like I said, there's tons of folks out there who are really working to create those opportunities and access. And I'll share links with you on all of that for stuff if you want to put it in the show notes, some of the ones that I'm aware of. And I think the other thing that I see a lot is that guilt. People are like, oh, I'm lazy because I'm not exhausted all the time. I'm not toiling all the time. And that's why also I'm like that, really starting with yourself and recognizing that having enough time, as Mikey said, to do a hobby or raise your kid or cook dinner, that's not being lazy, actually. We're not, that's being a human being who has a life that is full and varied. And we need more of that. That's where innovation comes from. When people have that back brain time, when they have those interconnections and those interactions with people that they feel inspired by and connected to and they care about. So I think really not being afraid to prioritize things outside of toil is a big part of it, and challenging those unconscious assumptions, working with other people to counter the messaging. So one of the reasons I'm really big on that is I feel like we get so much messaging that tells us that has to be a way. That's why people need programs and coaches and accountability groups, because we need people who help reinforce those, I think, more aligned values that are the antidote to this messaging. But it's so constant that we can't just do it once and assume we figured it out. Like, even being aware of this and as committed to this as I am, I absolutely seek that support, because I know I can easily get into that same mindset of, oh my gosh, I didn't produce enough today. Well, but I did a lot of really good things and I just don't feel exhausted. And so therefore I must not have worked hard. Like and even with all the commitment I have to this for myself and the people that I work with, I still land there. So I know that we need that support, that engagement, I think. And and don't be afraid to do it differently. It's okay. Like, you came up with this new idea, you want to do this business. Maybe the box isn't for you. Like, that's okay. Like, because why would it be?
That phrase of don't be afraid to do it differently, for the way that we are reared from education on, and let's just admit it starts with education, where they make you line up in a single file line. And you follow the leader. There's so many messages on stay with the status quo. And we see it in our commercials. Like, I haven't seen a Gap commercial in like forever. I don't know if they even still make commercials, so forgive me because I don't watch TV like that. But the Gap, their whole thing was cookie cutter. I mean, and I would be in New York and literally see people wear the exact same outfit, item for item, because they're just selling you this uniform, right? And people have this whole idea of being different is not the thing to be. But as we have, I don't want to say gotten older, I want to say that we have recognized that there are other options and maybe become a little bit more wiser. We realize that in order to truly stand out, you got to find out what makes you you. Like, how are you different? And celebrate the differences. It's really not a bad thing. But we know that when you color outside the lines, when you're in elementary school, you get scolded. Color inside the lines. Make sure you stay inside the pattern. So many years of getting that message to finally break free, and I'll show my age, from the Matrix. That's a lot to unpack. I mean, it can definitely be done. You do step out, and hopefully you have people around you who will be with you on that journey. Sometimes you do, some don't, but you got to have faith in yourself about why you're doing what you're doing. Go ahead.
You just made me think of that. Like, with kids, one of the reasons, and I think we do start there. I think we bully our children as a matter of course, not, it's the way of it. and especially in schools, and it's about our convenience, right? Like we want the kids to be in a line because we want them to be convenient, because people are so afraid of things being out of control. And one of the things that I really reflected on, because I was trying to think, like, what is it when I actually think about my core methodology, what are my underlying principles? And I realized that from a very young age, for me, there was a strong attraction to anything that was about being in power with rather than power over. And I brought that into my parenting, and I did that in my business life. And in terms of, you could say collaboration, but in a larger sense, I have found there are a lot of folks, and I work with an Indigenous women in community, and I feel like they really bring out that what is in power with. And so that means, like, I'm not the boss, right? Like I might be in this moment in charge because that's my role, but it's not my identity, because we are actually in this journey together, whatever it is. And even as a mom with my kids, I was responsible for their safety, but I never felt like they belonged to me. Like their time was theirs. They had the right to, as they got to places and they could make their own decisions about things, they had those rights. Now, as the mom, I had some duties, right, to protect them from things they couldn't understand. Yeah. But it was a role, right? Like not an identity. And for example, they've been studying wolves in the wild. There's no such thing as an alpha wolf. It's a role that different wolves take on in different circumstances. And I feel like, once again, like this whole idea of the hierarchy that we established, I don't think it's actually natural. I don't think it's functional, and it is often how people automatically engage. And so when they get into a situation, they're looking for who they're supposed to dominate or submit to, instead of just saying, all right, what are the jobs? What are the roles? What are my skills? How do I show up here in my best way possible and support this endeavor? It's a very different way of thinking about things. And it removes a lot of the fear of conflict, because it's not about I'm trying to win this argument. It's about I'm trying to understand the situation. It creates a lot of ease. And I think opportunity for success, but it is not natural. And I have seen the way people get confused when I don't treat them like I am trying to boss them or follow them. I am simply treating them like an equal. It is very confusing to people.
Extremely confusing, because they don't know how to behave in that kind of setting. It's like, well, if you want this, just let me know and I can do whatever. And then it's like, no, just chill. Like we're all here. It's cool. Yeah. Are you sure? Are you positive? Because they're looking for someone to be, as you say, the head person in charge.
Yep.
When that person isn't there, you kind of get this like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Do you guys know what we're supposed to do? Is somebody gonna take charge? It never fails. Never fails. We have more comments coming in. We have Opie here. Hello, welcome to you. Because I didn't see this earlier, Mike says, I'll take my regular cup. Oh, but love it. Love it. I like Opie says, bringing back Epicurean Garden rather than Plato's Academy.
Love it. Ooh. BiCurean is a play on Epicurean.
And Mike says, easiest is seldom the best or the cheapest. We sacrifice the investment into our future, but we'll put 30 years of investment into someone else's portfolio. Oh, man, isn't it funny how and I was thinking about this because I there was a clip from your latest podcast about how, I can't think of her name, so correct me here, but how this one person helps people remove themselves from the business. Like a lot of solopreneurs, entrepreneurs become their business. And the fact of the matter is the business is its own entity and you are another. But when you work for another company, a number of us have put so much investment into this other company, into someone else's dream, that when it comes to our own, we don't have anything left to give.
Yeah.
Nothing left to give. Like that's huge. And yes, I appreciate my 25 plus years because I got my lifetime discount, and I'm gonna say it like that. Okay. By the time I was like 5 years out, I was like, I got 5 more years on this ride. And I mean, I've done the marathons. I know I can do this. Let me just keep it. And now I have 2 more years and I'm this close to getting my lifetime discount. I've come this far. I'm not about to get that up. Just gonna.
Right.
I mean, what can I tell you? A woman likes to shop from time to time, and who doesn't like a good discount? So that's where we go there. Since you mentioned it, tell us about BiCurean Consulting.
Oh, well, happily. So BiCurean is the company that I started when I decided to step out into my own adventure of entrepreneurship. And it's taken me a little while to identify. It's funny because I created Business is Unusual, the podcast, a couple of years ago. And about a year ago, I was like, oh, actually, that's what I want to be doing with people, is helping them create their business as unusual, whether it's a product or a service or a pathway. And then as I continued to work with people, I realized that it's exactly what I was talking about, those helping folks who are stepping into that entrepreneurship or have been there, but are feeling a little bit, I don't know, stuck might be the right word. Like or a little overwhelmed. Like they can see where they want to get to, but they have a great idea, service, product, but they can't quite like make that movement. And it's either because they need to build a system that scales. Like they had a system that worked when they were smaller, but now they're moving to this next level and they need to kind of scale it. And that's where sometimes I think that other level of how it's supposed to be can show up, because like, oh, everybody uses HubSpot. And HubSpot is fine. It's just not necessarily the best thing for this person. So I do a lot of research around tools and tactics to try and help folks be able to scale in that way, but using something that actually works for them. And then create those custom systems that let them be part of their own business in a way that's functional, as opposed to self-exploitive or exhausting. Because I want that, if it matters to you today, it's going to matter to you tomorrow. So I want you to have energy for tomorrow, not just for your business, but for your life, for the things that feed you as a human. And so I do that in 3 different ways. I do small, kind of one-off, what I call business process consulting. You come in and we talk about what you're doing. We figure out where your highest area in your business is in terms of like a priority. What's the biggest priority? What's the biggest need in that area? And then what's one thing you can do that will help relieve like the burden, the stress, or the overwhelm. And then and that's more of like an encapsulated thing. And then some folks stick with me for longer and we do that same process, but we also do it in a larger scale. And we do a little bit of strategy around how are you going to address this thing, and then identify what your next things are. And then that's where I also might do some of that research I talked about, finding tools or resources or a person, because a lot of times those folks are so busy, they can't really go out and do that research. They need somebody who can help bring them some solutions that they can identify. Oh, these are the ones I want to go forward with, or this is what I want to try on. And then the other way that I work with people is what I call strategic operations, where I do those same other things, but then I also will oversee implementation and execution for whatever it is that they've decided they need to do. So that's sort of, and then I have my podcast, Business is Unusual, where I have folks come on. And that's also part of it too, is for people to see all of these folks that are doing it differently. So maybe they can recognize themselves in that and say, oh, I used to try to get up early and that wasn't necessary. Or I have this great idea and I want to try doing it this way. So that's a little bit of a passion project for me to get that out there. So, because I don't think there's a lot of messaging that tells people it's okay. Your way is just fine. In fact, it's great. If it's working for you, it's absolutely awesome. If it's not working for you, let's talk. But if it's working for you, don't let anyone tell you different. Figure out how to make it work for you in more ways.
That leads me to 2 things. One, I do want to talk about your podcast more. But when I was speaking with Gary, I want to say either earlier this week or last week, because it all kind of comes together, we were talking about success. Mm-hmm. And I believe wholeheartedly success is defined by the individual. Now, I am, I'm going to say a former, as I look at my medals, a former marathon, half marathoner, 10K, whatever, former runner. So I don't run the way I used to, right? Mm-hmm. But I would make these PRs for myself, personal records, pardon me, that with the acronyms, that I just wanted to get 10 seconds faster, 20 seconds faster, 30 seconds faster. Ooh, a minute. Okay, let's go back to maybe 35 seconds faster. But I made my own PRs. And if I was to make that PR, I had an amazing race. I don't care where I came in. right?
Right.
Clearly, I make 1, 2, or 3 in my age category or my gender, whatever it is. That didn't matter. The whole deal was I'm racing against myself to be better than I was yesterday or the last race. Now, there may be a person that we call a rabbit that I'm following, right? I'm like, okay, she's got a good pace. Let me stay with her. And then in some marathons, they have like a pace runner. So you have a rabbit. You're like, okay, if I stay with this person, I'm going to get my PR. I'm going to get to that next level. So you may have someone in business that you admire, but I'm not trying to be like them or do everything like them. I am still doing my own thing at my own pace, on my own path. And when I get that win, I celebrate. It's like shaved off 2 seconds. Woohoo!
Yeah.
A little bit faster, right? But we don't get that messaging enough. We get the idea that if you're going to be successful, you must have XYZ house, 2.5 kids and a dog, 3 cars, things that you like, you're doing all of this physical stuff that, as my mama said, you're not going to take it with you when you go. So hopefully you're enjoying it now, but then you're tired and you're exhausted. You're like, okay, so I made the $250,000 last year and I hate my life right now. Now, money doesn't buy happiness, people. It does not, but it will buy bacon and champagne and gin and tonic.
I love that. No, I feel like that is so important. And it's actually, I mapped out a book last year on business as unusual and I forgot about it. And then I was going through my stuff and I was like, oh, look, this. But one of the chapters that I had in there was that start with defining success for you. Like that is so critical, because if you're trying to achieve someone else's dream and it's not what you want, one, you're not going to be motivated, but two, it's not going to be meaningful to you. And then the other thing is, we were talking about resources earlier, and I'll cycle back to money is a tool. It's a useful tool in our culture in many ways. It's not actually the thing that you need. What you need is like food and shelter and warmth, and there are ways to acquire those sometimes that are not about money. And so I also really encourage people to, like, when you think about your resources, before you start looking for the things that you need out there that you can only get through this tool of money, what do you have right here that you can get in terms of the ways that you engage in life or barter or whatever? And I don't encourage people to barter for things they don't need or want. Like I had that occur. It's like, no, that's not helpful. But if you have a service or whatever, there's a lot of ways to achieve your ends or to get the support and the tools and the value that you need to achieve the success that's important to you, that it isn't about this other pathway that we've been pointed towards that doesn't benefit most of us. Yes.
Yeah. There is so Gary's like, yeah, it was last week. It just, we talk so often, but some of these topics, some of the messages, again, we don't get enough of it. Like I remember years ago when we spoke about conscious capitalism, because for the average person, capitalism is awful. It's the devil. Okay, well, the way that you're living your life is because of capitalism, and it doesn't have to be that way. You can be more conscious as a business and an individual and show up in different ways that capitalism does not become the devil. Okay. So let's instead of saying it's this absolute, let's really drill down and figure out what can we do, as you say, to do it differently, to do it unusually. So let me go back to it, because we started and then we kind of stopped. Your podcast, Business as Unusual. A few more details, please.
Well, so I feature CEOs, founders, thought leaders, project leaders, artists, people who are either creating a new way of doing business, like folks that have employee-owned or profit-sharing models, or folks that are doing a new kind of business. And honestly, entrepreneurs who have like started a business and just talking about what got them to step into that space. Because one of the things I've learned, there's lots of people who have an identity or an experience or an idea, but the difference between having that and choosing to take an action to create a project or a business or a service, what is that space? I find that to be a very interesting thing to discover. And because of that, I've learned from, I've had folks who are running, bigger companies, who are artists, of, voiceover actors. It's really fun for me. And it inspires me to constantly be thinking about the different ways that people are approaching the same problems that we're all dealing with, and the ways that they think about it and try to discover their path and their solution. I just find that to be a great way to inspire myself to trust my own instincts, honestly, and to know that I'm not alone. Because we work, a lot of us as solo and small business owners, we work kind of alone. And hearing all of these different people who are facing similar challenges and how they're addressing it and their passion, it's a great reminder to me of I'm not alone. I may not be walking in the same forest, right? Like we might be spread out on the path, but we're all in the same forest. We're all trying to achieve something that I think is really beautiful, and I'm excited about it.
Oh, that is so awesome. And it is. There isn't a need to do things by yourself, because there's clearly plenty of solopreneurs out there and communities that you can join and have someone. It speaks back to the reason why the accountability group that I created with Gary was created. To have another creative that I could bounce ideas off of and talk about XYZ and perhaps plan for some stuff. Like is good to have that community, and it's growing in a positive way. It is growing, but we are not alone. And just like we check in at a job, a basic 9 to 5, I hate to say basic, that's so rude, but at your average 9 to 5, 10 to 6, whatever, we check in with each other too, as if we are colleagues. We're like, oh, hey, how's it going today? Oh, it's going great. What are you working on? Oh, I got an XYZ project, blah, 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 blah. You don't have to you have to do it by yourself. But I love the fact that you have your platform that allows you to spotlight these other small businesses and how they are not following the everyday path. And they have made a decision to do something different. And they are thriving in being different. Absolutely love that. Because, I mean, you've had some great topics. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I got to check that one out. Hold on. Because there's
I love it. It makes me so happy to see people. And the woman that I had on this week started a self-play healthcare clinic because she lived in a community where there are a lot of manufacturers, and she said people can't get to the doctor between 9 and 5. And then listening to her talk about all these things around the healthcare industry that if you don't work in it you wouldn't know, and suddenly it's like, oh wow, some of these things that I thought were like doctors being greedy are actually the way the system is set up. And so I also learned things like that, which, by the way, if anybody knows someone that should be on the podcast, please shoot me an email. I'm always happy to get new referrals. I'd love to have more people that are doing services like healthcare. I have a lot of folks that, and I'm not to say that I don't value the folks that do, online businesses or the more solopreneurs, but I think it's really interesting to talk to people about like those manufacturing groups that are employee owned but it's harder to find them sometimes because they're so busy offline, which is great.
It's great. Oh, and speaking of our accountability partner, he was like, yes, it is growing and it feels good. So good to see this happening. I love the fact that we are doing this group together. It's just, people feel a certain kind of way about groups and sharing ideas. And in my opinion, that's that scarcity mindset that in order for me to get to the top, someone else has to be at the bottom. No, it's not a sub-zero game here. Everybody can win. We can all win together. I mean, like, I'm a coach and photographer. You're a coach. There's plenty of people out here. Personalities that if someone doesn't necessarily vibe with me, well, I can be, it's like, hey, well, I know so-and-so and so-and-so, perhaps they'll be a better fit for you. That's fine. Perfectly fine. There's more than enough. But we do have this sort of scarcity mindset. Again, another narrative that's been running around for a number of years that people get into this place of, I don't know about that, and I don't want to share my ideas because somebody may steal it and cut it out. Rod also says, yes, I love our co-working community. Yes, we got some great people. We have some heavy hitters. In that group.
I love when I get to pop in and see y'all, and it's always such a great, lively communication. And I work with a guy who does brand science his company is called Apply Brand Science. And one of the things that he talks about that speaks to what your messaging is, like, we think of our customers as ours, but they're not. Our customers are other people's customers that sometimes buy from us. And it's not, and honestly, the best way to get out there and to really build your business is to build other people's and to build a network. Because like you said, it's about the right fit. It's about the vibe. You know, there's 8 billion people on this planet. Maybe you need 40 people to be your clients. Like, that leaves a lot more. You're okay. Like, and so you can get, and you get to be particular. You get to find someone that really is suited to what you're good at. And it can be hard sometimes, because like, we do live in a society where we are, you know, within 3 bad months from homelessness. So there's moments where we're like, and I'm not going to judge that, because I feel like living in the system means you've had to make a compromise. And, you know, your compromise and my compromise might be different. And I'm going to respect that, because there's no reason we can't work together and support each other. And I'm all about that. This is one of the other thing I love about doing the podcast is I get to know all these people. And then when I'm working with someone to set up a system or to help them identify a resource, I can be like, oh, I know this person. They do this really well. Let me connect you. And I love being able to help folks engage. And I love supporting other small businesses, because I think it's the opposite. I don't think it's I win if other people are down low. I think I win when everybody else wins. Like, the only way that this happens is if we do it together and we do it well together. And that's what I'm here for.
Man, see that right here. Mikey says, when you stop comparing yourself to everyone else, it provides the time you need to innovate and find new clients. That is facts. There. That whole comparison thing. Oh my goodness. Before we let you go and get back to your day, how can others connect with you?
So I have a website, BiCurean, BiCurean.com. And that's a great way. And you can also, there's a contact form on there. I have an email list. I send out emails about once a week, usually about the podcast, but sometimes about other things that are going on. And I just love to chat. You know, if you reach out to me on any of these platforms, I'm BiCurean on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. I also, you know, feel free to shoot me a message. I'm always happy to chat and to get to know folks and find other folks for the podcast and just be part of the community. It's great.
There we go. We didn't do the .com, but it is BiCurean. That's how they can find you.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that we let everyone know that that's how they can find you. Oh my goodness, Aicila, thank you again, because we've had other things going on. People stay tuned for that. But thank you again for giving this community your time and your expertise and your superpower. This girl, you do it.
I'm so delighted to have been here. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for being here.
So very much doing that. And to all the persons who are watching live now, will be tuning in later, we thank you as well. And I'm going to go ahead and do my own little plug, because I got to plug for my darn self. Mm-hmm. We have a multitude of podcasts. So if you want to get the latest, greatest, including Small Biz Bites, you want to sign up for that podcast at grhjack.com. And like Aicila, we are not going to spam your mailbox. Ain't nobody got time for that. But it does allow you to see what's going on and also stay in tune with all the other things that we. Oh my goodness. Okay. So, you know, I'm looking at these comments. Thank you, Gary, for the great show. But Mikey, I'll see you in invoice. Oh man, I have true to my word. You let me. Okay, so we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna.
Mikey has to come be on your show.
We're gonna figure it out and get it together. I said half. I'm gonna go ahead and give you half. And then we will definitely promote the merch.
That's the new business. That business is unusual. It's been created on a podcast stream. And
I know, right?
There you go.
Oh my goodness. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. We so appreciate you and your time. And for those again watching the replay, thank you for watching the replay. Aicila of BiCurean Consulting, thank you again for sharing your expertise and your superpower with this community. All right, everybody, have a good afternoon.
Thank you for watching another episode of Small Biz Bites with Gwendolyn R. Houston-Jack, where we chat with other creatives and small business owners about their journey. And we also invite you to like, share, and subscribe to the GR Houston-Jack YouTube channel, where you can get the latest and greatest.